Well, hello my YouTube friend. Today it is my pleasure to present you my latest acquisition, the Dr. Death. I would call it probably junior. I didn't have the time to check actually with the measures, but I know that the length here is way less than 4. It has to be something like probably 3 3/4. So I don't know. You know me. I'm not an expert, a Mayo expert per se, not by a long shot. But I'm getting into it. Not the expertise, but loving Mayo knives, and that goes with my a recent trend. Not recent. It's been some time now that I'm getting more and more involved in the simplicity of the knife. Why, I couldn't tell, but you know, something that I can explain is that when I was a kid, when I started collecting knives, those were the shapes that spoke to my heart. You know, when those realistic blade shapes, like the spear or draw point, something that you can trust, that you can cut. As a kid, this is what we have in mind when we look at a knife. You know, this is something like that. You know, that's a knife per se. I mean, that, you know, if you go even further than that, our ancestors, because you know for sure that knives were the first tool of mankind, when they did their first a tool, you know, to hunt. Those are probably the shapes, not probably, most definitely the shapes that they use. So you know, it goes back to that those memories of mankind, of childhood, and you know, I'm a big child, and sometimes somebody said something that I really like, and he said that an adult is a kid that it didn't evolve well, you know, that was spoiled somehow, because this is how it is, you know, when we have our dreams when we're kids, those are the true ones, you know, and after that, you know, you're getting spoiled by the adults. So this is what I thought about a knife when I was a kid, and this is the trend of the day. I'm getting back to my childhood, and to probably, yeah, the feelings that I have with knives when I was younger. That being said, I am not, as I said, a Mayo expert, but I now have 3. This is the 3rd one that I have. I really wanted to have not the Dr. Death, because actually I said in the previous video that the design of this shape, of this handle, I don't really like. Too simplistic, and but this is exactly what I like now. The fact that it's like, you know, straight, because I'm gonna gather my thoughts now, and I will deliver them in the minute to come. What I wanted to say is that Mayo is really well known for doing, you know, perfect simplistic knives. Not simplistic in a wrong way, perfect and simplicity. That's something that we know him for. And in his line, because when you look at his line, he's gonna make, you know, some knives with some weird, some really crazy material also, and crazy grind also. So even he can do something really complicated. So in his line, this is the most simplistic one that I've ever found, and I'm gonna try to tell you why. And it goes first with the handle. As I say, the Dr. Death probably is the more simplistic. I mean, it's straight line, not a lot of curvature, nothing crazy. Here it's nice because you have some kind of, you know, it's kind of pointy here, so it brings you some some impact point. Maybe it can come in handy if you need that. But overall, very straight line. Then after that, you know that Mayo invented almost, you know, the hole patterns on the handle. And look at that. It's just a single hole pattern. Just one. Just as a reminiscence of the fact that it's a Mayo. One hole. Not the crazy hole all around, nothing. One. I mean, of course, you have the lanyard hole, but this it's not a matter of the discussion here. And on the other side, no hole, nothing, you know. So that is the most simplistic, the single hole pattern of Mayo. The most simplistic one. There's most simplistic shape on the handle, most simplistic hole pattern. And then, of course, you have the blade. The blade is the most simplistic one also. Look at that. I mean, you have this flat that goes really up here, the very nice line, and the flat that is just a tiny flat, and then after that it's a long hollow all the way around to this drop point, spear point. It's in between the drop and the spear point. I would call it a drop point more likely. And yeah, as I said, a single and a very long hollow grind like that. So it cannot be more simplistic than that. It cannot. So this is what drove me crazy when I saw this Mayo. It's that even in the Mayo line, I would get. I mean, they have others probably. As I said, I'm not an expert. But from the one that I saw, this one was actually the more simplistic one, and this is what I actually adored on this knife. So now it's already over 5 minutes, so I'm going to go to the description of the knife. Starting with the handle. So you have this, we talked about almost it already, a straight line, some curvature. Usually I like better curved handle. I've talked about that relentlessly, but this one is made in a way that is straight, but you have still some curvature. And man, the grip on this one is... it's just incredible, and the guard that provides the tab is just crazy. Of course, you don't have no jimping here, but the kind of ram that you have here provides it makes a kind of stop, so it's kind of secured if you want to use it for a hard task or whatever. Not that much actually, but again, I've talked about that a lot of time. As long as you have a guard with the flipper here, this can be slippery. You don't care. I mean, the thing that you want to protect is your index actually, to not cut yourself with the edge. So it can be slippery as long as you have the guard here. No real problem, no real issue. Going back to the handle, so you see you have this very, very deep and nice bead blast. And I would argue on this one, of course you can disagree with me, but I would argue on this one that I prefer to have a single hole than multiple hole. And why is that? Bear with me. When you have a multiple hole, you see the blade and you see, through the holes, and it's a general aspect. But when you have a single hole like that, your attention is focused here. Not everywhere on the handle. You have a focus, and it's something that goes with your mind. When you have something like that, like a hole like that, of course your attention will be here. And here you're going to see actually the hole, not the multiple hole, one hole. And you're going to appreciate how the big one, the nice drilling lines that you have in a chamfered, and the contrast, the radical contrast that you have with the hand rubbed and the bead blast of the handle. So in a way, I don't know if you would agree with me, in a way, it's a better way for me to appreciate the whole, because you see through one spot, and this spot is a big one, so you can really appreciate the contrast. And it's sufficient. Why would you put a lot of holes like that? I mean, again, it's just a matter of design, but if you want to accomplish something and focus your attention on the contrast with the blade and the handle, this is more than sufficient. I think it's the best way, anyway. So enough with that. That's my point of view. I like the new pivot. I don't like, when, of course, you're going to have the regular hardware here, but I like those pivots that he did. I don't know when he started that, but I like that. I also like the fact that it's almost a concealed blade. You know me, I like when the blade is almost concealed like that, or even concealed completely. I like that. Now, the action. You see, I missed one, and it won't happen very often, to be honest with you. The action is just sublime. I mean, it's a RJ Martin-like action. You don't have the noise because you don't have the long back spacer for the resonance, but the action is, I mean, you can compare it to the best flipper in the market. And the detent is crazy. Look, hear that. Boom! It's sucked inside and it's literally unbreakable. So the action is perfect. Would I like the flipper tab? Of course, no. Of course, you know me. It's a long and big, I mean, it's ridiculously too long of a flipper tab for my preferences. It doesn't have any jimping, so you saw me missing. It won't happen that often, to be honest with you. But of course, I would like it better with the jimping. Of course, I'd like it better if it was a tiny bit smaller. Of course, I'd like it better if the line here would follow the top of the top of the handle. And actually, come to think of it, this line here is following, look at that. Yeah, it's following. So, yeah, it's not so much of a discrepancy when it's open. But you know me, it's not really the flipper tab that I would say that I really like or crave. But in any way, it's the way that he is, and I'm not one to try to even change some MAYO. It's not my place to do that. And actually, the fact that the action is so great, to me, is enough. Then after that, you have the smoothness. And the smoothness is not when the blade is falling by its own weight. Actually, if anything, that is dangerous. The smoothness, you can feel it when you accompany the blade like that. And you have no resistance whatsoever. This is the way to test the smoothness like that. No noise, nothing, no resistance. That is smooth. And that is something that I cannot make you appreciate, because it is something that you need to feel. You need to have the knife in hand and just do it like that. Look at that. Try to hear something. Nothing. It is silk. And again, don't for a minute, don't, you know, when you see those Russian knives, when you just do like that and the blade falls like that, this is just circus, you know. It's not realistic. It doesn't provide nothing. And again, it's something that is dangerous. I mean, when the blade is like that and when it falls and your finger is like that, boom, you can cut yourself. So no way for me to say that the smoothness that I crave is when the blade falls by its own weight. Enough said. Very nice detent. Look at the tolerance that you have here. Very, very nice tolerance. Even if it's on IKBS, very nice tolerance. The engagement is perfect. Look at that. Perfect early, and it's a rock solid. Of course, because of this crazy flipper tab, the stop pin is internal, okay? I mean, he could always put it here, but it's not the way he puts his external stop pin, because if it was here, it wouldn't be a problem with the flipper tab. But you know, again, we're not going to change MAYO, not by a long shot. And it is how it is. It's going to be an internal stop in, and I'm good with that. Now the blade. I've talked about the blade already, and this is something that probably I like the most on this knife, because, you know, I said, you know, simplicity is not simplistic. I need to be really thorough on what I describe. I said simplicity is, to me, the harder is to get something that is perfect and simple. You know, when it's just like in painting, when you have a lot of character, like a Baroque or Rococo, you know, paintings like that, you can hide the defect. But when it's simple, it's way more difficult to obtain something that's going to be perfect. And you have on this long hollow, on all this bevel, absolutely no bump, and it's absolutely perfect. And to me, I would argue that this is way more difficult to obtain, to have something perfect like that, than to have a big and bold multi-grind, something like that. You know, you're gonna get distracted with the multi-grind, and you may pass on some flows. This, if you have the tiniest flow, it will pop like nothing, and this has absolutely no flow whatsoever. So this is something that I absolutely adore. Now, on the other side, finishing with the blade. I'm not an expert of MAYO, but I think that those logo from 2012 are thought after. I mean, I hate the logo. I could live without. This blade is so beautiful that I would prefer it to be sterile, like the IKBS here. But, you know, somehow I like, you know, it's coming from Hawaii. So, you know, you have the map of Hawaii, the M that looks like the volcano there. It's a kind of nice touch. So I'll live with that, you know. Actually, as I said, I'm more than happy with that knife. The edge, oh man, it's crazy sharp. Let me do the test. Yeah, you see. So it's razor sharp. I like to film with two hands. This way I can do that test. We are heading to the 15 minutes. Do I have something else to say? Probably not a lot more than I mean, overly happy. Yeah, one word about the clip. It's a bend clip. Again, not my favorite one, but for MAYO, this is exactly what you want to have. No hotspot whatsoever, and it carries perfectly in the pocket with a, you know, just a fair, it's not deep carry, but just enough out of the pocket in order for you to reach the clip and just take off your knife like fast. we have finished with this video. It was a pleasure for me to do it. Eventually, it ended up